Hello, so this is all about Paul Catherall's prints and how to achieve something a little bit similar to his, but in a Photoshop type software like Pixlr.com. I think my tutorial will assume you know a little bit about how to work Pixlr. But let's just have a look at Paul Catherall's prints first. So we can see that they're very blocky, simplified colours. Tone is achieved through just different shades of the same colour, and the shapes are extremely simplified, and he loves to do buildings. So here, for example, some of his silhouettes, skylines of London usually. So let's see if we can have a go at trying this on the Hoover building in London. Now, for this we're going to need our lasso tool, which is this one, and we're going to need to understand the concept of layers, okay? But really, it's a matter of cutting out the shapes that you want and then filling them with colour. So it's really very easy. Now here, oops, sorry, not that one. We are actually going to use the marquee tool, which is this square or rectangular tool. You can also change it to a circle if you want up here. We're just going to select this top bit here. Something like that. Now obviously we've got these bits on the side here which we don't want. So what you can do is actually press Alt to minus the section. Now if you're not careful, you lose your marching ants. So we will press Control D to deselect on a PC and Command D to deselect on a Mac. Let's do that again. So if you want to add to your selection, for example this little bit above here that I didn't get, you press Shift down, you hold that and you drag along, overlapping where you already had selected, and then it selects that bit there too. But we want to minus these bits here, so we're going to press I think it's the Alt key. No, it's not the Alt key. Let's go back. So I just did edit, undo. I just want to edit, redo to get that bit. Which key is it? Could be Control. Could be Control. Yes, it's Control. So we're just going to minus these bits. So it's Control to minus and Shift to add to your selection. Now we want to make sure we're on a new layer. That is crucially important. So we want to click that plus sign down there and go to empty layer, new empty layer. And we're going to fill our paint bucket with a colour. I've got yellow in it. Actually, no, let's go with a greeny turquoise colour. And we are going to fill it. So we've got our paint bucket selected. We've selected our colour. And if you want to change the colour, you just double click. And you're going to fill it like that. That strip will be on a new layer, so you can move that around. I've deselected those marching ants because I don't want them anymore, and I'm going to show you that you can just move this around like this, okay? And basically you can continue to do this throughout your picture. So how will you get these squares? Well, this is a very it's a funny distorted perspective photo, isn't it? Because it's looking slightly upwards. So what you can do is you can basically do as much as you can by marquee tool, and then you can add with your Shift tool, overlapping, obviously we haven't got the side bits yet, but we'll get to that in a minute. Maybe we'll have these as a slightly darker shade. Go to our paintbrush, make sure we're on a new layer. If it doesn't work, it's probably because you're not on the right layer. Fill that in and take away our marching ants. Okay, but that's not the right shape. So now what we can do is get our brush and just literally draw in the rest of the shape. You can change the shape of the brush here. You can also change the softness of the brush, so I prefer it much harder, so I take the softness down. And is that about the right size? That's about it. And this is where you need to be very careful. If you have a jerky mouse, it can be very annoying. And your mouse is lagging as well. Sometimes if your internet is a bit, because you're working on a web-based application, can be very annoying. If you get too annoyed, just stop it and come back to it another time. Now, because we've got each of these shapes on a different layer, what you can do is while you're working on it, you can decide that you're going to go right-click, blending mode, multiply. Then you can sort of see to the picture below and carry on doing it. Now, my mouse has decided, because my fan is heating up, that it's going to go really laggy. But basically, you get the idea. That's how you do it. Now, I just want to show you one I did earlier. This one, instead of being on top of a photo, is actually on top of a drawing. And it's really great fun because you end up with all these different layers that you can then move around. And what you might decide, actually, is that it's obviously Paul Catherall. He doesn't have any drawing in his. So you can actually say, right, I don't want the drawing. I'm going to go to my sort of shapes image and see if, I think I've got all my layers switched on. Oh, I did have another one. You can sort of really start to select areas and fill them in, select and fill them in, and then all of these are set to the multiply mode. So that's why you get this sense of when the shapes, because these are just hand drawn with a jerky mouse, but I think it's quite effective. These windows need to be done a bit better, and obviously there's more detail is needed, but you can see how where they are overlapping, so where this shape overlaps that pink shape, you've got this sort of overlap of colour. You might like that, you might not. Okay, let's bring back that picture again. I think that was the original one. Yeah, it's just an old picture I had, it's not one I drew specially. When you're on that layer, if you're selected on that picture layer, the hand-drawn layer with the black pen marks, you can actually use the magic wand and say, okay, well, I'm going to click in the sky, see what it selects, and basically paint spills through. I didn't draw this image with regards to playing around with it on Photoshop later, so that wasn't my primary aim when I was drawing it, but it's quite interesting to see, okay, where's it spilling to? Could I get maybe a new layer, new, empty, and then fill it, my paint bucket, with whatever colour. So let's see where it fills. And take my marching ants off, and where's it gone? It is this one here. So if I go to my arrange tool or my select tool, I can sort of see how it created it filled in the negative space, and I quite like that area around the tree branches there. Maybe I could use that somehow. So you know, you can start to have a lot of fun with playing with that. I quite like that pink coming out behind. I've also got to do all the windows of this building. I quite like the offset nature of these windows on this side. Again, they're not so pink anymore. See, that's my my windows that I filled in. I've still got my drawing layer switched on, so maybe I'll switch it off again. And you can see that you could start to work with some quite interesting shapes, and you're basically simplifying down your picture, your photo, just like Paul Catherall does. Although mine, of course, is a bit more, I have more organic forms in mine, which is why it's a bit more squiggly and messy. But that's, you know, an example of how you can go beyond what he does. Hope you enjoy it.